Hello, and welcome to the Relationship Clinic podcast. I'm Renee Natvig, your host, and today we continue with our Divorcing with Dignity series. My special guest today is attorney Brenda London. Brenda has been a family law attorney for 30 years, and she's been with the Aiken Family Law Group for 24 of those. Over the entire span of her legal career, she has worked as a guardian ad litem with hundreds of children in both dependency cases and custody time-sharing cases. She is a strong children's advocate and has received several outstanding service awards for her work as a guardian ad litem. She's most recently received the 2016 Judge J.C. Jake Stone Distinguished Service Award from the Orange County Legal Aid Society, as well as the 2017 Florida Bar President's Pro Bono Service Award. She's frequently appointed as the guardian ad litem in difficult cases concerning neglect and abuse, as well as custody and time-sharing cases. Brenda's work with children and families inspired her to become a proponent of the collaborative law process and mediation. She's helped create and develop the Collaborative Family Law Clinic at Barry University Law School, which is a free program designed to help underserved families in need of representation for divorce and paternity actions. Brenda serves as the director of the clinic and teaches the collaborative law and family classes at Barry University Law School, where she's an adjunct law professor. She's a collaborative law trainer, teaching the principles of collaborative law to attorneys, mental health professionals, financial professionals, and allied professionals. Brenda has served as the administrator of the Collaborative Family Law Group of Central Florida for 10 years, from 2008 to the present. Brenda represents her clients, whether they are children or adults, with integrity, dedication, and zeal. She's been viewed as a calming influence and the voice of reason in the courtroom, as well as in the living room. She's been married for 33 years and is the mother of 4 children, 1 pug, and 2 cats. Enjoy the interview. Welcome, Brenda.
Thank you, Renee.
Thank you so much for being here. I am so looking forward to talking to you because my understanding is you are one of the founding people who started collaborative in this area.
I don't know if I say founding, because it started probably in 2002 before I got involved in it, but I have been involved in it since 2004 pretty seriously at different levels, and I've been kind of the mother of the collaborative law group since 2008.
Yes.
And so that's been a really fun part to make things happen and to bring people on board. And then, of course, I've been training professionals since 2010. So I've been very involved in it, and now I am also a law professor at Barry, where I teach the Collaborative Law Clinic too. So
in so many different contexts,
right.
You are involved in collaborative.
Yes. Can you tell I'm passionate?
I can tell. Where did that passion start for you? How did that come to be?
You know, that's easy.
Okay.
Because 30 years ago, when I started practicing law, I was a guardian litem right away. I did that as my pro bono work. I worked with families. I represented children and their best interests. And that was my pro bono work that I did. And then I started working with families in child custody cases at the time. That's what it was called. And I started to see what was happening with children and families in these divorce actions. And at the time, I was a civil litigator. So I was doing commercial litigation cases. And
okay.
That was my background. So from my perspective, litigation wasn't doing so well for families. In fact, they were coming back to court over and over and over again. Their problems weren't getting solved, or they weren't given the opportunity to solve them or look at them in any type of holistic or creative way whatsoever. And I was seeing these children being really destroyed and really bad things happening in the family because of all the stress and the strain and financially, emotionally, the costs were too high. So when I started doing family law, which I started doing for my firm that I worked at, the commercial litigation firm, I decided that family law was something I was really interested in, because I thought, gee, there has to be another way. And at the time, mediation was becoming very popular. We didn't really know too much about it. This was back in the 80s. And it turned out that, mediation was a good option and helpful. but it still was so linked to litigation.
The mediation was?
Right, the mediation, that it still wasn't the answer. It was helpful, and you could still be creative with it, but it wasn't the answer. So I heard about collaborative law through my partner, Wendy Aiken, and she was getting into it, and she's like, oh, you're gonna love this. And I'm like, okay, I need to know what this process is, what exactly it is, and then I got trained, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
This is what I'm
This
looking
is
for.
it. This is the answer, for not only all these families and these children who are really suffering, but for me as a practitioner, it aligned with my values and what I felt a professional should be and do in line with these families. I wanted to be a problem solver, not a problem maker. And I felt that in litigation, even when you do your very best, it still wasn't good enough, because people who are perceived as winning cases in litigation, and you were happy, right, that they were perceived as winning, but even those folks in the end weren't happy with the results, because it was never 100% of what they wanted or needed. And of course, the people who were perceived as losing were never happy. And so then it continued on and on and on. So that's great job security, right? But that's not the kind of job security I wanted. So collaborative law became this beautiful option for people, and so I was very committed to making sure everybody had that option. Not just the wealthy, but everybody, because I felt that if we can't give this option to everybody, then we can't give it to anyone.
And you're such a proponent. I mean, you can share a little bit about your journey with allowing that to be available to people, if you would. I mean, you've been really dedicated about that.
Yeah, because I think we have to. If we're going to be so committed to this process and allow that, we have to make sure everybody can have availability to get that option. And so we developed here in Central Florida a low bono program for folks who make significantly less than we would call it modest means, perhaps, than other more wealthy people. And then of course we developed a pro bono program, and it's it's one of the first ones in the country, and it's been so successful at Barry University. It's just amazing the work we've been able to do, and in pulling in students and professionals. So it's this wonderful relationship of training and doing pro bono work for these people at this clinic. We take 2 families a semester, and we've had such success. It's been
And the students are part of that process?
They are. They are fully involved in it. We want them to be the ones that are interviewing them, the ones that are talking to them about the process. So they get trained right along with professionals like yourself to do that right away. And it's been an extraordinary experience. It really has been. It's received awards, it's received lots of accolades, and it's all because the students are magnificent,
And they're led by people who are passionate, right?
Yes.
Like we were talking earlier about the generations of, in some cases, how divorce is so difficult in generations of families.
Right. It continues on. It's a gift that keeps on giving. That's what I say. So many of the law students have had families that have gone through divorce. They're all. So many of them, I can't tell you, especially the ones that are interested in family law, their families have been through awful, difficult, really damaging divorces, and they're still fighting. Like one young woman, I think it was probably a Monday, I spoke at an event on Monday, and she says, it's 20 years and my parents are still fighting. We still can't get together at holiday events. I'm getting ready to get married. I'm hoping to have, children, and I still can't do that. They're still fighting over this, and it gives me anxiety just even talking about it. And you can see it in her face, right? So it does continue, but it continues in that way, but it also continues into their relationships. And so they have to do the hard work with somebody wonderful like you to really make sure that they're facing those issues so they don't carry on, because it is seen over and over again, that that example that they experienced, that trauma that they went through, is pretty amazing.
Right. That model of how we resolve or don't resolve conflicts, and then carry it in. To think about, yes, it's not just children in that, young children in that way. It's how then young adults become adults, and then look at relationships and pass along to their kids. And so,
and that's really important, because a lot of them lost that, because all this going on in their lives when they're either really young or they're a teenager, whichever, it doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter if they're older.
Right.
They're going to experience the rock of their parents' divorces. It's going to rock their world in a way that's not great. And their
relationship after.
Yes. And so their relationship with their family and what they thought it was, and their relationship with other people around them, and how do they interact with their future relationships. It's all connected, and so there's a lot of work that has to be done. And usually when you ask people, they're getting divorced, and you'll say, well, how are the kids doing? Oh, they're fine. They're just doing fine. Not
so they hope.
Right?
Yeah.
Not necessarily. Right. We all hope they'll do fine, but they do need support, and they do need understanding, and they do need to see mom and dad really working on conflict resolution skills now, so that they don't continue on and on and on. And that's kind of what the collaborative law process does for everybody. It teaches us a different way of looking at problems and solving them in a way that is more productive and constructive rather than destructive.
Yeah, can you help people understand a little bit more how that teaches people, or how that models for people something different, just by being a part of the collaborative process?
Yeah, it's a big question, because it does it in so many different ways.
Or maybe just some ways that are most meaningful to you.
Because right from the beginning, when you're talking about, first of all, you go into a lawyer's office in regards to a family issue like that, they need to tell you, and have to, the rules require them to tell you about all the different ways in which you can divorce. All right? So you can, sit down at the kitchen table or Starbucks or wherever, do it yourself. You can do mediation with or without lawyers. Right? You can do litigation if that's what you want to do. You can file at the courthouse and start that way. Or you can do it through collaborative law. Or many variations in between. Because you see, if you do things outside the court system, you can be very creative on what that looks like, because every family is different. They have different needs. So right away in that first discussion, you are talking to them about choices. You have choices, and you need to make decisions. And it's hard to make decisions right now, perhaps, because you have all this coming at you. Or there's the client that's way down the road a year later, like, okay, I'm ready. I've been waiting to do this. And so they're way far ahead.
Oh, as far as they've been looking forward, like this was going to be my answer.
Right. And then there's another client who, no, this is just a surprise to them. They're shocked. They're not thinking right. They're trying to gather information, but even processing it is difficult. So you have to decide, of course, where that potential client is, and have those discussions right away, so that you can start helping empower them instead of disempower them. Because if you want a lawyer who's just going to be talking for you, and you're going to leave your voice to them, that old traditional advocacy role, it's really not helpful.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like we tell our kids all the time, no, you need to speak up for yourself. You need to advocate for yourself. You're having trouble in school, well, you need to figure that out first and see if you can go to the teacher or whatever it is. So the same thing with our clients. We need to help them find that voice. We don't need to take it away. Now, is it guiding them, educating them, giving them a safe place to have difficult conversations? Yes. That's really our role. So it's a different advocacy for family law lawyers.
Right. It's taking it out of that attorney knows best. Maybe that's what maybe the client might think, to supporting people in finding their answers. What would you say to people that think, well, they're so experienced, I should just leave it up to a litigated attorney, because they're going to, if I tell them about my case, they're going to be able to, fight for me in a way that I necessarily wouldn't be able to, because I don't know how this works.
Right. Well, I don't think that. I think the collaborative attorney still shares their experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, for instance, I'm going to be practicing for 30 years. I can share my experiences in court. I can share my experiences in the collaborative process. I can talk to them about the options that they really probably never even considered, because we're dealing not with positional bargaining where it's this or that. We're dealing with interest-based bargaining, which goes way beyond that. We want to know what you need and why you need it. Well, that's a whole different conversation than I want the house. Well, why do you want the house?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I need it for my children because I don't want them to have those changes. I can't afford to get my own house, so I'm worried about the finances. So you're having different conversations than I just want the house.
Mm-hmm.
So you're allowing them to help, that cognitive ability to really work through issues. And we're having those meetings beforehand. I'm working really closely with the clients. They are ready for those meetings when they go in. There are no surprises. They have an agenda. They know what's on the agenda. They know where the money is and where it's going. That's not a surprise. You don't just get a bill every once in a while that says, oh, here you go. What did you do? I don't know. You know what your lawyer did. And the communication is so good in a collaborative case. I mean, you're communicating a lot with your clients. And you're giving them homework along the way. The professional team gets homework, the client gets homework. So everybody knows where we stand. And there's this feeling with that, I think, is, okay, I've got this. There's control here, and I have a part of that. It's just not some train that's going and leaving the station without me. I'm going to have a real part in this and my future. And I should, right?
Right. Yeah, that train leaving the station might be, well, I hope it works out well. But this collaborative process is more, I know what's going well or what's a struggle, and seeing ourselves work through it, right?
Right.
When we hit those bumps.
Right. And we will.
Right, because it's not, this is a divorce and there are things to solve.
Yeah.
But being able to be, in the process of working those through then.
Right.
As they go along.
Because, and sometimes it does end in reconciliation. Sometimes,
I've heard the stories.
They've had conversations they've never been able to be had. And they're like, gosh, if we'd only had you all in our living room for the past 10 years, it'd be awesome.
Right.
So we do try to model some of that behavior. So some of that conflict resolution and the respect. And that's not to say that everybody behaves great. No, they don't. People behave badly. They do. And I can't say that, lawyers always behave nice either. Rolling our eyes is not a good thing. We have to really keep that in check, because sometimes we get frustrated as well. But the collaborative professionals work together really well as a team. They tell each other before and after, hey, that wasn't really how we should have done that. Brenda, don't roll your eyes this time. But it's all done as far as any conversations about, did we do well, did we not do well, what do we have to do differently? It's all done towards the client and pushing their case forward and helping them make those decisions. And I think people love an agenda. They love it. They love homework. Okay, give me homework. Tell me what to do, And our office is really good about working with them to make sure that they get it, to make sure they understand their homework, and if they need any help with it, so that every meeting that we're all together is one that we're prepared. Everybody knows what's going to be discussed. There's no surprises, no bombs. And it's just that it's like a lifeline for them that, okay, I have some control here in my life, and that's important, so that ultimately our outcomes are going to be better. Our clients are going to be happier. We're going to be happier. I can't tell you those moments, how they feel. There's these magical moments that happen in these cases where somebody has made a huge leap, and it's just extraordinary. It really is. And it happens just about in every case. There's this moment where you go, yes, we did it, they did it.
Something that they didn't think they'd be able to resolve, you mean, as far as a leap into something
and you see it and you feel it, and they're proud of that, and we celebrate those moments, and everybody feels good about it. And so there's this general consensus building all along. And then, there's those moments where we as attorneys have to sit in this uncomfortable place of silence. That's not easy. Financial people have a hard time too, I think, sitting in that space, the financial neutrals, because we're not used to that. We're used to filling those gaps and
with solutions,
having those answers. And so that has been extraordinary, because I feel that listening is our superpower so often, and we forget that because we're so willing to just fill in the space, right? And those are the moments where extraordinary things happen and movement happens, and a client works through something and is able to voice it, and you're like, wow, they hadn't been able to say what they needed to say, and they finally did. And it's a breakthrough. And so sometimes then suddenly we are almost done with the case, and that happens a lot because, we do a lot of option building and brainstorming. Right. And they couldn't even imagine that those options existed, So it's pretty phenomenal to go through it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And maybe you can speak, since you are such a child advocate, in your experience, how do the children fare in that collaborative process then? What are they receiving, maybe one step back, but because they're not there, but one step back. What are they?
I think that's a really important question, because we say that collaborative is very much family oriented and it's child centric, but yet that child's not sitting in that room.
Right.
The parents are,
right.
And the parents need to be parents, and they need to be co-parents. They need to be able to do that together, right? Forever. Think about all the things that's coming down the road for them. And that's really important that we keep that front and center. So sometimes the children are used as an anchor in the meetings. So, for instance, I had a client who was extremely rude and inappropriate in a meeting when he got upset with his wife. And I understood him getting upset, but the way he reacted was really not what we're trying to accomplish. And so, we went outside and we had a break. And I said, I just want to ask you something. If your children were watching a video of what just happened in there, do you think you would have done it differently? And of course that answer was yes. And he understood that and realized, well, this has never worked for us, so why am I continuing to do it now? And so we went in there and made that apology that needed to happen.
Wow.
And she was willing to receive that apology, and it was a real apology. And so we have lots of stories about apologies and forgiveness that never happen in the courthouse. They don't. But additionally, with children, we can get them the help that we need to. If they need that support, say they need some counseling, say they need a child specialist involved to help us understand their voice, because sometimes teenagers really need to have a voice, and we don't want to bring them in that meeting. That's not really a good thing. That's just like they should never be at the courthouse. That shouldn't happen, but it does from time to time, right? But a child specialist can come in, and if necessary, they're another part of the team that can be brought in as an allied professional and help us understand the needs of that child. And that's pretty wonderful. As well as a guardian ad litem, we could do that as well. But I think we have just finished a case, and the big thing was, how are we going to help the girls set up their new rooms in Dad's house? What is that going to look like? How are we going to make that positive and exciting? Well, we decided to put a budget forward for them so that they had a certain amount of money that they could do for their rooms. And, that was just wonderful that we had that discussion together.
So the level of detail and specifics that can get covered is pretty thorough, not from a complication standpoint, but from an understanding and desire standpoint? Like, what are we desiring for our
Right.
family?
Right.
Right.
What do we? Because every family's different.
Right.
Everyone. They don't have the same needs. They don't have the same, family dynamics. Every family is different,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why I love working with families. That's why I love family law. That's why I love being a guardian ad litem. Because I really care about families. I want them to do better when they leave me, not any worse. I want them to be better. And so in that process, the possibilities are endless. I mean, they really are. We can come up with so many different things. And then the fun thing about that is when you brainstorm and then you have 20 things up on a whiteboard, and everybody's like, wow, look at all these things. And then together suddenly they're saying, well, that won't work for us. And they're clicking that off. And that won't work. Well, that one might. Yeah, that one might. And all of a sudden they're talking together about this.
As an us, as a we, as our family.
Yeah, and so that's tremendous. The amount of respect that we expect of each other and we give to each other. And as a lawyer, for me, what's really important is hearing that other client. I need to hear their voice too, because otherwise I just get the watered down version from my client. And it's always more that you get by sitting there and listening to them as well, and questioning and asking, questions to understand, not to shame,
right?
Not to, make them come defensive. No, questions to understand. And I think that makes a huge difference for them, and the dialogue that starts, and the trust that is built around the table. The trust is around the whole table with their whole team, including both lawyers. So that's kind of neat.
Yeah, I'm just contrasting that in my mind with two attorneys and their clients in a courtroom, and how questions would never be directed in trying to really understand and care about what your opposing or the other client is needing or wanting.
Right.
So,
cross-examining them
right.
on the stand is not going to elicit that kind of response.
Right.
And that's part of why it's so important that if, for whatever reason, we don't get this done in the collaborative process, that the whole team goes away and cannot represent them in litigation. That's important. You need to know that I'm 100% in, your team's 100% in, just like you are. Not that I have one foot in litigation and one foot in
just in case.
Just in case. I'll try this, and then I'll have you spend money on this. And it's so not. So that withdrawal provision is really important in the contract that you enter into, that participation agreement. That's really important.
And just to give people a snippet, because that might be a term that people aren't real familiar with, but just to explain that, that withdrawal.
Right. So a collaborative case, to be a real collaborative case, it can't be just, we're going to be collaborative. Give me high five.
Yeah, we're gonna get along.
we're gonna have sing kumbaya. We're gonna do all those things. It's not. You're gonna have a participation agreement, which is a contract that says we're not gonna go to court. We're gonna also be transparent in all the information sharing for the finances and whatever else. It's all going to be transparent. We're not going to keep secrets. We're not going to do that. We're going to be open and honest. And if, for whatever reason, we don't conclude the case in the collaborative law process, then the entire team withdraws and will not represent you in litigation. Now, does that mean you walk away with nothing? No, it doesn't mean that at all. Along the way, we're building consensus and agreement. Sometimes we have a parenting plan already done. We may even have several parts of a settlement agreement done. Maybe there's one or two things we haven't been able to agree upon. So all of that still goes with you. All of the information still goes with you. You're not starting from scratch. And then your collaborative counsel will transition you to a litigation counsel.
And or mediation, right? People could try.
And it often, actually, what happens, and it's a great thing to bring up, because oftentimes before a case, just ends and doesn't, get resolved in collaborative, we bring in a mediator, and it changes it. And suddenly they agree, and there it is. And we don't ever understand. It's just a shift, right?
A different voice, a different person.
A shift in that energy, and they oftentimes, I would say 99.5 maybe even, because in my experience that's what happens when you bring the mediator, it gets done. And it's done very quickly. And those cases that go on to litigation, even those cases get done very quickly after they get out there, because they usually end up in mediation anyways. At that point, there's one or two things that have to be done, and they figure them out pretty fast. So it's never, I don't think it's ever a waste. Yeah, I don't think, I mean, I'm sure somebody somewhere will say, well, it was a waste for me or whatever. There's always that, but that's not been my experience. I've been really happy with the outcomes that clients have been able to reach. And they've been able to reach them. Right. They have. That's a
support.
big difference.
Right.
With the support, the education, and the help of their team. And oftentimes they don't want their team to go away. You know, like, can you all stick around?
Yeah, this has been really good.
And we do. We can stick around for years to come if they need us. We can pull the team back together to any problems that might come up, or, you know, as your collaborative counsel, you know, my client can come to me and ask me anything. So there really is that relationship that continues.
Right. And that's a good point, that it's hard to know at that very moment everything that's going to come up, you know, because not just because you didn't foresee something, but changes happen that maybe you weren't expecting, or events, or situations. So to know, kind of like a therapist, to know you're always, you know, you're there if I need to come back to do that check-in or that additional problem solving, or it's probably, it's just another advantage.
Another advantage, exactly. It's another advantage. And getting to know our licensed mental health professionals, our mental health neutrals, whether they're psychologists or licensed mental health. Oh my gosh, that's wonderful, because that has helped me be so much more helpful to my clients, because I know who might really work well with them, because I've gotten to know everybody beforehand. Before Collaborative, I really wouldn't have known mental health folks in that way, because I wouldn't have had any interactions with them other than perhaps having them hired in a case and having them on a witness stand. That's a whole different experience. So now I get to know everybody, and through our practice groups and through my cases, and I feel so much better about it, because first of all, I'm telling most people, you need to get in with a therapist. We need to do that right away, even if it's just for a period of time. We need to get you that support. Then I'm also, you know, picking and putting on a team, you know, a mental health neutral and a financial neutral. Well, I know who might work with these clients now because of that, and having that knowledge is so much better. It's another skill set that has been helpful to clients.
Because building a team, just like we were saying, not every family is the same. So you can tailor who might be receptive to what personalities or experience or skill sets.
Yeah, it's really important.
For finances as well as for mental health.
Now, can you do that when you go in litigation, when you choose your judge? Well, let me choose the judge that aligns with my views and has no. Right. And the rules of civil procedure preclude you from, giving your life story. You can't. And the rules preclude much of that. Even the stuff that's pertinent doesn't matter. The rules preclude you from even talking about it half the time. And so in Collaborative, we get to talk about all of it, and we whittle it all down, but you have been heard. And I think people feel so much better with that. You know, somebody's heard me and understood me. Because if I hear something and I don't understand, what am I going to do? I'm going to ask. Could you explain that so I understand it? I don't know what that means.
In the moment, at that time, when it matters.
Yes. And how happy that person is that I asked that question, because everybody just wants to be heard and understood. And even if they don't agree on what that story is or what that topic is about, still we're trying to understand, and it's so much easier to do that and to come up with solutions that for them to consider.
You know, as a couples therapist, I am often amazed by how that process of being understood really takes precedence over what the solutions are going to be. They flow in, they do come, but come so much more easily by that process of feeling heard and understood, because that's the core of what people are looking for, and that I think it just sets a tone where people then are more receptive to the possibilities or intentions, that there may be a positive intention there versus only a negative intention before I understood what that person was feeling or thinking.
Right. And how about understanding our own contribution?
Oh, yes.
That's really important.
Yes. Yes. It goes both ways.
Yeah, and you don't ever see that in litigation. It's all saying how bad that other person is and how wrong they are for whatever you're trying to accomplish. And you never say anything good about them.
Right.
Everything they do is wrong, and everything has implications and stuff behind it that's all against you. And we know that's not true. And I see that again in my guardian light work. I'm trying to get to the bottom of things. Everything is trying to really destroy that other parent instead of working at solutions and understanding our own contribution as to why that's happening. And it really helps us learn and understand the families that we're working with so intimately that we all understand it in the end. And they are so, I think, appreciative and happier with the outcome because of that too. That all of this team that's there for them.
Yeah, this community that gets it now.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the power of that, where my partner, the husband, my partner gets it, but that more than that, this whole team of people
that
gets
collective
it.
wisdom
Right.
of that team.
And nobody had to take sides.
Right.
In order to get that.
Right.
To get me or to get them.
Right. And it comes to a place of peace. And even if you're unhappy with it, it still brings them to a place of peace. Okay, this is not, I don't want the divorce, or I'm not happy with everything in this, or whatever that is, but accepting and understanding and realize that they've done the best they could do under all these circumstances together for their family. I mean,
it's powerful.
It is. And it's wonderful to see it happen and to be part of it, which is why I love what I do.
Oh. Well, it's been so great to have you, Brenda. Thank you for sharing your experience, your wisdom, your heart. All of your clients are so well served by having you.
That's very kind. Thank you.
If people do want to know how to get a hold of you, we will have that as a part of our information we're offering. But if you want to take this opportunity to just share with people how they can get a hold of you.
Sure. Wendy Aiken and I have been working together for, I think we're in 24 years now. And we're in Winter Park at the Aiken Family Law Group.
All right.
And we're on the website, and phone number is 407-644-4040.
And Aiken, A-I-K-E-n.
I-N.
Oh, where am I?
See, everybody does it, don't worry.
Okay, say it.
A-I-K-I-N, yes.
Okay.
Law,
Family
yeah.
law. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right.
All
Thanks
right.
again.